Hey everybody, starting a series of videos here to get you to be able to build our little stools that we're going to be making. And we're going to do a three parts to this video series. The first one's going to be the top, which you see on the screen. And then the other two parts are going to be the bottoms. The bottoms basically kind of fit together. There's a little bit of a difference between each one. So we're going to do those together, even though there's going to be a lot of repetitiveness to that, but those will be in the next series of videos. Let's first figure out how we can turn this design that you see here, which is the stool top, into our VCarve software so we can build this on the CNC machine. So I'm going to show you what we're going to be making here first with Tinkercad. So if you take a look here, you can see that we are making a piece of wood. It's going to be 3/4 inch thick. And what we're going to do is we're going to be cutting out this piece into a 10-inch. Let me center that off there. 10 inches by 10 inches. And we're going to be putting a cross bevel into it so that we can have the legs of the stool fit on top. And then the other thing that I also put in here are the holes. I think we're going to be drilling those holes using the drill press, but I figured if I'm going to be making a rendering here, I might as well make the whole thing. So how are we going to make this work? Well, there's a little bit of math that I had to do as well. So I could be able to figure out the cross. I basically had to create a triangle. So I used my old school math to figure out the triangle there, knowing what the length of the second piece is. And I used a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So I knew that one length is 10 inches, the other length is 10 inches, and 10 squared is 100. So 100 plus 100 is 200. And if we do the square root of 200, that comes out to be about 14, a little over 14. And as long as we use 14, we were pretty good. So I'm just giving you that information so you can see how we're going to be making this. So let's go ahead and open up our VCarve software so we can go ahead and get started with actually making this. So the first thing we're going to have to do when we start here is we're going to go to create a file, create new file. And let me shrink myself down here a little bit and move to the top. We're going to make our piece be 12 inches. We're going to be cutting all the plywood pieces we have into 12-inch chunks for you to use, because then that way we have a little bit of wiggle room on both sides. We got to put the clamps down when we use the CNC machine, so we're going to have to spare a little bit of wood. Next thing we have to put in is the thickness, which is 3/4. The legs are going to be a 1/2 inch, but the top is going to be 3/4 to reinforce people's weight capacity or spread out the weight a little bit. So now that I got that, I'm going to hit OK. And here we are with our workspace. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a rectangle. Square is a rectangle, remember that. So I want to find center on here. Well, since I know it's 12 and 12, X and Y there would be at 6 up, 6 over, and then 6 up. So the X here I'm going to change from whatever this is to 6 and Y 6. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to put some rounded edges on them because it kind of makes it look nice. Who wants to sit on a chair that has really sharp corners? So we'll do a radius external, and we'll do it at a 1/4 inch. So basically that's saying from the one corner here, we're going to go to a 1/4 inch down, the other corner here, 1/4 inch down, and it will make a curve for us. So that's what we're going to do there. Now, down here, our width is going to be 10 inches and our height is going to be 10 inches. And we want that to be centered since we're doing it off that anchor point being the center. There's our rectangular piece. So I'm going to close that. So that's what we have there. We have a nice rectangle. That's what our top is going to look like once we cut it out. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to the vector build and we're going to do a rectangle. Now for this one, we can do the center again. And what we're going to do for this one is the width is going to be 0.6. We're just going to do it a little wider than a 1/2 inch. Since the wood's going to be a 1/2 inch, we want it to have a little bit of wiggle room so our piece fits in there nicely. So we're going to do 0.6. And then the length, as I said before, since we're doing it at the diagonal, it needs to be 14 inches to be able to make it to the corner. So I'm going to go ahead and hit create. And it's going to create one. And then I'm going to hit create again. And it should have made 2 rectangles. So if I click on one of these lines and move it over, you'll see 2. So there we go. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take one of these and we're going to change the angle. So I'm going to rotate the selected object. So when I click rotate the selected object, I'm going to do 45 degrees and it puts it at an angle. And the other one I'm going to do will also be 45 degrees, but if we want it to go the other way, we're going to do 135. and that gives it the angle at the other way. So it's 90 plus 45. So I basically tried to make it just go the other way. And now I'm going to hit close. So the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure everything is centered. So this one object looks like it's centered perfectly. If I go here to our align selected object and I click center, it doesn't move. Our rectangle that we originally made for the seat, if I hit center, doesn't move. That one's all good. And then just the last piece here is this last line. We're going to go here and we're going to click center. So now we have all our pieces that we want. But the one thing we're going to do, I'm going to close this. The one thing we have to do before we start tooling, get myself out of the way here, is we need to get rid of this box here so there's no crossing of lines. If we do crossing of lines, it's not going to recognize that spot. So we need to make sure that we recognize it. So we're going to go to this little scissors piece here. And under this edit object, if I click the scissors and I click the little objects that we don't want overlapping, you can see that they disappear. And now we have an X and we have our rectangle piece. Okay, now it's going to go over a little bit. That's perfectly fine. What we're going to do is we're going to create the X as one piece, one tool that needs to be one path that needs to be tooled, and the other path that needs to be tooled is the outside. So let's start with the inside piece. We always work with the stuff inside out is how I like to do them. So I'm going to go to tool path for this one. And what we want for this one is we actually want a pocket tool path. We want to cut out this whole X space. So for this project, what we're going to do is we're going to go first, we're going to select the right tool. So I'm going to click select here. I don't want an 1/8 inch bit. We're going to use a 1/4 inch bit. It works quicker. We'll be able to get our stuff done a lot faster. So we're going to pick that 1/4 inch tool, and then I'm going to go over 1/8 inch here and remove it. So if you have to change your tool, that's how you change your tool. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the proper depth to this. Now, for the depth of this groove, we're going to want it to go at least a 1/4 inch down, but I think we're going to make it a little deeper than a 1/4 inch. We're going to go between 1/4 and 1/2. So we're going to do 3/8. So 3/8 would be 0.375. Okay. So it just gets a little bit deeper so the legs will sit a little better on top of the stool or the seated part of the stool. So I'm going to go ahead and click calculate, and I'm going to hit play, and that's what it's going to look like. Okay, it's going to be dug out nice and deep, so our legs will be able to sit on it. So it's 3/4. So we basically went about halfway through the wood, and we made a nice little groove. The next thing we're going to tool is this outside rectangle. So let's go ahead and select that so it's purple or pink. Depends on how you see it. I'm going to click close here. And now this one, we're going to do a profile tool path. So it's just going to cut the rectangle out. I know it looks weird the way I'm drawing, but it makes sense in front of me. So for this one, we need to have it changed again to a 1/4 inch bit. So I'm going to go to select, end mill, 1/4 inch. And for this one, we want it to go just past the depth of our wood. So our wood is 3/4 or 0.75. If I do 0.76, that's enough. That's just a little bit more. It's actually 5/100ths of an inch more, just enough for that bit to go down just a little bit past the wood, run it once, and it will be cut all the way through. So if I click calculate, it's going to warn me you're going to cut through the tool. I know I'm going to cut through the tool. So I'm going to hit OK. And then again, I can hit play, and I see now that it shows me that it cut through. And now we have our nice top. The only thing we'll have left from what I showed you here on the Tinkercad version is we'll drill the hole with a drill bit later. Once this is all cut through and sanded, well, maybe even before sanded, we'll drill those holes and sand everything smooth. All right, last thing we got to do is we have to tool this. So we're going to be using one bit, 1/4 inch bit for both. So what we can do is we're going to click close here, and I'm going to click save. And I'm going to click toolpath so both are highlighted. Now the way we did it is I did it in the order that we want the bit to go. We wanted to do the cross, and then we wanted to do the outside. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to click visible toolpaths to one file, and then we'll have to pick our processor. So for this one, we're doing G code, and we use a .tap for our software. So that's all I need to do is click a .tap file, and it's going to make it into one path. And what we're going to do is you're going to be saving this file onto a flash drive that one of us will give you as instructors. and then we will take it over to the machine, plug it in, put the piece of wood on the CNC machine, and it does the work for us. For now, just to show you, I'm just going to go into documents. I'm going to save it in my documents section. I'm just going to call this my last name, Singer. I'm going to do camel case, so the next word starts immediately, no gap. Stool, and then top. Singer, stool, top. I'll save that as a .tap file, and that will be transferred over to the CNC machine. So that's how you program the top to your stool. We'll have 2 more videos to follow, one for one side of the stool, one for the other side for the legs, so that they can connect in perfectly. And that's it. If you got any questions, let us know. But if you follow this video, you'll be able to make exactly what you need to have what you see on the screen. Okay, that's it.